Hello, welcome to Relatively Ordinary. This is Betsy.
And this is Karl.
How's it hanging?
It's good. It's hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time you say, how's it hanging? I want to say short, shriveled, and off to the left.
What?
That was a line from Jim Carrey in Liar Liar
Oh,
when he's
yeah. I
like,
mean, I've heard it before.
you can't tell a lie.
Yeah.
And someone asks him,
Oh,
how's it hanging? And he's like, short,
oh,
shriveled, and off to the left.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we should watch that movie. You
Yeah.
think you think it's
Mm,
appropriate for the kids?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if we need to watch that movie. It's not like it was a classic. Like, Jim Carrey had his moment and it was
Yeah.
funny at times, but like,
No. Yeah, no, I never found his movies that
do I
funny,
need
but
to
they're
like
like
rewatch them?
slapstick a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Wait, lean this way a little bit.
cr
No,
crawling out of the
come up.
rhino's ass in Ace Ventura 2. What are we doing?
I'm fixing your collar.
Oh, don't hold my collar, man.
You're
Okay,
calling me
mom.
fixing.
Thanks,
All
mom.
right. I don't need to be reminded of the Ace Ventura. Ooh, that was
No, that
gross.
was awesome. That was the funniest scene in the history of cinema. At least
No, it was
that's
not.
the hardest I ever laughed in my entire life
Oh,
when I
okay.
saw that scene.
So it's worth watching again.
No,
Well, you said it was the funniest.
it is funny, but
Jeez.
my look, man, there's only so much time and attention we have to give in this
Okay.
world. And I don't know, like watching, sort of second rate comedies from the 90s. I don't know if that's
Okay. Well,
how we
then
consider.
maybe it actually wasn't the funniest
Yeah,
scene.
no, what I mean, that was the hardest I ever laughed in my life. So by
Okay.
definition,
Also, were you like 14?
probably, yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah, that
probably
was probably
why.
like
That's
97.
probably why you're laughing the
Yeah,
hardest.
yeah.
All right. So that's how you're hanging, and
That's
you
how
want
I'm
to leave it
hanging.
at
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay. Nothing new or exciting you want to share?
I mean, there's lots of exciting things we could talk about.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
Like uh,
World Cup?
I replaced a toilet today.
Yes, you did.
That was cool. First time I ever
Nice
did that.
work.
Learned a notch in the dad card for
Yeah,
me.
I'm glad I didn't have to help too much.
Yep,
Good
yep.
work, babe.
Um, the World Cup has been awesome.
Y-
U.S. still alive, still looking
Yeah,
dangerous.
yes.
Um, having a good time.
Good. And
And
it's almost 4th of July.
yeah, we are on the 4th of July Eve.
Yeah.
America about to turn 250 years
Uh,
old,
it's
and
exciting.
it is exciting. Anyway, we missed out. We didn't book our tickets to the Great American State Fair,
Oh,
unfortunately.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, we could have been one of the dozens of people there. Sweltering heat,
Oh, it's probably awful.
getting
Yeah.
bombarded with fundamentalist Christian propaganda.
Yeah, we're getting a heat wave right now. It's probably the hottest it will be in Maine
Yeah,
these few days we're dealing with.
which
And
is why you're wearing a sweater.
hey, it's women's winter inside. We've got the AC going.
Yeah,
So
it's like 78 degrees inside.
I love this weather. I enjoyed it today being hot.
It's a good day to have a pool. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So cool. Well, it's good. Good to know.
yeah. Oh, and actually, one other shout out. Today is my parents'
Wedding
anniversary.
anniversary.
Yep,
Oh, did you reach out to them?
I did.
Oh,
Yep.
nice. I oh my parents was in June. I miss that.
Yeah.
I'll I'll talk to my mom next time I see her. Let
Yep.
her reminisce a little bit. I mean, that's ultimately what they want to do, right?
Yeah. Or not.
Or
Or
not.
not. Just forget the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Just move on.
Yeah. 45 years. 45 years.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's your age.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, almost your age.
Yeah.
Do the math, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got married in July,
Yep.
July 3rd.
3rd.
And then you came along
Bundle of
9
joy.
months minus 5 later.
Whatever. It's not important.
Who's counting?
Let's get to our quick bite question.
Okay.
So, in honor
Did
of.
I just embarrass you?
No, I think maybe this is just not the kind of thing we need to perseverate on.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
perseverating on it.
Okay. So, um, the
Wait,
quick
let's go back and talk about that just for
no,
another moment.
now you're being annoying. So the quick bite
Being
question for
funny.
today is, what is your favorite thing about the United States of America?
My favorite thing. Okay, this is where do I go like big picture philosophical or do I bring it down to something that's like a tangible thing like the hot dog, which is not. It's not the hot dog, but that's a good
Wow.
example.
So here it is. Here it is. You have an opportunity to
Uh,
tell everyone what your favorite thing about the United States is, and you chose the
no,
hot
I
dog.
did not choose the hot
The
dog.
hot dog.
I know I choose
That's
that
a
as
great choice.
no, I said that as an example of something tangible that I could go with. But
I think Joey Chestnut should eat 250 hot dogs.
oh, that might be easy,
250 hot
right?
dogs for the
Doesn't
250.
he eat tons more than that typically?
I don't know what the count is. I
Oh,
don't think I think 250 is a stretch, but it's also
ugh.
time based. So,
Oh yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah,
give him like
yeah,
4 hours, he can do
easily.
250.
Okay, my favorite thing that is about America. So it's not like if you say quintessential America, I might say something like hot dog, but actually I don't really like hot dogs. My favorite thing about America is that, for a lack of a better description, we are a nice melting pot. I like our diversity
Yes, we are.
across the country.
Yes, we are.
And doesn't mean that there's, equality or even equity baked into that, but there is some really good diversity. And I think we should celebrate it more.
Yep.
I think that's what it means to be American.
I think that's one of the things that's been great about the World Cup is I think it's been a
Oh, yeah.
celebration of that diversity. There's a lot of people visiting from other countries, but there's also a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who, are Colombian or, British or Australian or um not Italian. Italy didn't qualify again. But,
Oh, bummer.
Brazilian.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool to see the you know, both people who have moved here from other parts of the world or just have a connection to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and celebrating that. And um, I think it's a great reminder that we are a very diverse country. We are a country of immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
and
Is
um,
that your favorite thing too? Is that why you're elaborating?
no,
No.
no, I just
Just
think
I
it's
didn't
great.
explain it well and you had to do
Well,
one
no,
up me.
I don't think I'm not one upping you. I'm just saying it was a great choice, and if you had settled on hot dogs and NASCAR, we could have expanded on that
Oh,
too. But
oh, no, we couldn't have. All right, what's yours then?
um, I think that I actually think that we are going to have a resurgence of optimism and hope and patriotism in this country. And I think it's largely because ultimately what whatever the like American spirit has evolved into is really this sort of indomitable, like, no, we can do hard things, we can figure this out, we can, solve these
Mm-hmm.
problems. And we're seeing a lot of pretty significant problems in this country right now, and they're not going to go away. But I do think that people are sort of like looking at, like, you know what's been happening with some of the people that are in charge and being like, you know what, you're done,
Mm,
you're out, and
okay.
we're going to start taking over, and we're going to
So,
start
so
taking
this
care
is
of
like what you like about America right now,
well, I think
or
it's
historically.
historically, like, the 20th century was, you know the American century, some people have referred
Mm-hmm.
to it, and largely because, like, you look at, the impact that the United States had in the world stage in the world wars,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing about sort of a, different level of prosperity and
Mm-hmm.
um relative peace and just being an inspiration in terms of innovation and science and progress and
Yeah.
human achievement. And
Mhm.
right now, the ass clowns we have, in the White House, are the antithesis of that. They're the antithesis of things that are positive and building. And
Mm.
I think that like people are looking at it and they're like, "That's not who we are. It's not who we are."
All right. So you yourself are being optimistic.
Yeah,
How novel.
I've told you I'm always an optimist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you like humans, but you hate humanity. Is that what you said last
You
episode?
got it. You
That
got it.
sounds like someone who's optimistic.
Yep.
Well, you are going to really like today's topic because it parallels your quick bite pretty well.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I have to give credit to Maine Calling. Do you ever listen to Maine Calling?
Sometimes.
Yeah. So I happen to be commuting between campuses uh, this week. And on Wednesday, they aired an episode about something that I already wanted to sort of discuss with you, which we've, talked about a little bit here and there, but we didn't, do a deep dive yet. And it was titled The State of the American Dream. And I learned some really cool things and, brought up some things I was thinking about. And I know we talked about housing and relating that to American, the American dream or what
Mhm.
people think of. So I thought let's get into this. I think this could be really interesting, and I'll give you the floor to rant just a little bit, but I get to cut you off. Okay?
No, the people want to hear me rant.
No, they do not want to hear you
That's
rant.
that's what they're tuning in for.
So this also, is aligned pretty well with our 250th anniversary. All right. So I don't know if you knew this, but the American dream was first defined by historian James Truslow Adams. Did you know that?
No.
In 1931.
Attaboy, James
Yeah.
Trustlow Adams.
And what was interesting, okay, actually, before I share, the term he coined and how he defined it, I'm curious. Let's start with you on an individual level. What would you say is the American dream? How would you define that?
I think it's sort of access to opportunity.
Mhm.
So if I work hard, I can carve out a good life for myself and have an opportunity to like grow, build wealth, be happy, be fulfilled.
Mhm.
Um, I think that the idea of increasing prosperity so that the next generation can do better than the current generation.
Mhm.
And I think the sort of freedom to define yourself and your um just your worldview, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So just having choice and opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, so what I was going to follow up with then is what he wrote about, which was essentially that every, this is sort of quoting him, every individual, regardless of birth circumstances, has the freedom, opportunity, and quality to achieve upward mobility, prosperity, and a better life. And on Maine Calling, and I would love to watch this with you sometime. They mentioned a PBS documentary where they interviewed, I want to say like over 100 people about what they thought the American dream was or is, and did they think that it still exists? And, there was, interestingly, some of the data or information they took away is that, people describe what you would think of, the home, the white picket fence, the, having a little property, having enough wealth and stable, income to live comfortably
Mhm.
and to be able to build for the future and things like that. And It stood out that those who felt that the American dream was still a reality were those who were millionaires
Hmm.
and those who were first generation Americans. So everyone else in between felt like the American dream died, that there was lack of, opportunity for prosperity, and the, some of the wealth inequities that we see in the United States being responsible. Some of the, and we'll get into that a little bit. Anyway, just thought that was interesting. So, well, if we keep it in the context of you, do you think I kind of gave you the background of what others have thought, but do you think the American dream is still a reality for you and then maybe others within your community?
I do, but with a asterisk that the playing field has been so slanted towards the wealthy
Mm-hmm.
that it, it's if you're not wealthy, it's harder than ever to create wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are wealthy, it's easier than ever to multiply your wealth
Yep.
and protect it and retain it, which is not that's not a bad thing in its own right. But what what's missing from it is, the idea, and like going back to like the first thing I said, which is like, you know, there's and someone's mentioned too about the like it's been mentioned about the wording of the Declaration of Independence saying like the pursuit of happiness. It's not a guarantee
Mm-hmm.
of happiness, but it's the promise is that you will be able to pursue happiness. You'll be able to have an opportunity to be fulfilled and live free and attain a fulfilling life. The ingredient is hard work, right? And you can't like there's this mythology around, like you hear sometimes like people say talking about like billionaires. It's like, oh well, it, you take like an enterprising person and you drop them into any life circumstance anywhere in the world and they would be successful. And I think that is generally true. I think like Jeff Bezos, like smart dude, hardworking dude, sacrificed a lot to get where he's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he grew up in a thatched hut, somewhere in like Southeast Asia or Sub-Saharan Africa or something, he would be successful and he would, have a successful life most likely, unless he got, disease or, famine or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like would he be, a multi billionaire? I don't think so. I think that like this moment that we've been in the last part of the 20th century and then the first part of the 21st century has been unusual in the ability for people to rapidly create wealth and then retain that wealth and expand on it in, you know, essentially just monopolistic capitalistic ways that aren't really good for society. They're not really good. They're not really good for business.
Mm-hmm.
We think like, okay, yes, Amazon's a very successful business, but a lot of Amazon's success has come at the cost of suppressing other businesses or taking advantage
Yes.
and blocking out other businesses.
Yeah.
So it's I don't like tangent, right? But I think that people can work hard and not get ahead. And then people can work hard and have certain advantages and then a lot of luck and be outrageously ahead.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of equity in that.
Yeah. Yeah. They have opportunity the way they're situated in a situation. They're situation. They're situated in an environment where there is opportunity, there is freedom to pursue things, but they don't necessarily have the same means.
Yeah.
and opportunities
Yeah.
to, you know, capitalize on it. So interesting, like as you were mentioning that, and it's a lot of this conversation has been seated in wealth, which it sort of comes back to, right? When you think about American Dream, it's tied to wealth and that the idea of prosperity. And I did a little bit of a deep dive. I'm not a historian. I don't know much about economics, but I find it fascinating to sort of explore and gain some information about, how did we become the nation that we are? And some of the things you just talk about how it's not good for other businesses that, you get the corner market and it squelches others and limits opportunity for others. And it's not just hard work, it's being in the right place and having the means and the good luck and, obviously having, the brains to do it in many situations. But when you look at, like the early 20th century, or even before then, 19th century, when railroads were being built, cross-continental
Hmm.
railroads, there was, one enterprise that had all the resources, from, we're talking about it today with the manufacturing, the development, and then, sort of the maintenance of the lines, and then, being able to expand on it. And they also set up the structure of the market so that they were the only ones who could benefit
Yep.
from it. And then, they became extremely wealthy from it, and the way they could use their resources to sway Congress and the
Yeah.
Senate
Robber
to
barons.
robber barons,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
it's basically, and I feel like that, and
It,
over time antitrust laws, were developed, and we tried to come out of that, and FDR, blah blah. But I feel like we're circling back to that. As I
that
was reading, I'm like, hmm.
there's a part of literally there is a part of the make America great again
Mhm.
concept that is considers that to be the golden age. That's what they want to get back to. They want to get back to like 20 families or less own
Yeah.
95% of the wealth and call all the shots and have this entrenched
Mhm.
oligarchic elite. I mean, that's what they want. And it's again, it's like I don't besmirch someone being fabulously wealthy and being successful, but it is not the right thing for our society to let them systemically create the conditions for them to perpetuate that power and wealth for all eternity.
Well, and I think it has a really negative trickle down effect if you're, creating these markets where then you have problems from it.
Yeah.
You have families that are living below, unless they just don't care. They just want them to die off and be done with them. But like people who
Well,
are
that's
living
what they
below the
think.
poverty
That's
line,
what they think.
who are in unhealthy situations, who can't find gainful employment, that are dealing with, the stress and the struggles and the mental health and all the things that can come. I mean, how can I know? Then you're going to say they don't have a conscience and they're evil bad guys. But yeah, I it's if you were really in a situation where you were an elected official looking out for your people, you could not in good conscience feel like this was the way to um, support a
Right.
strong economy, because of the level of economic disparity that comes from it. And, interestingly, thinking about how you alluded to it, how when we did our quick bite and you answered about this optimism and how, America's used to dealing with hard problems and, the growth that we've seen from, the since we became a United States. But what's troubling is that it was on the back of primarily slavery and tobacco markets, which we both know are terrible. Tobacco for your health, and the concept of free labor, human labor, and that's who we are historically. That's how we became so prosperous and even better economically than Europe was. Uh, so how how do you think we're gonna evolve away from this when we're seeing, in action some things that are uh, probably creating more economic disparity, especially for those who are indigenous populations, black and brown people. We were moving in the right direction to sort of create better equity and opportunity, and now I think we're seeing that being ignored, overlooked, maybe
Yeah, I
a
mean, it's
change in
not.
the wrong direction.
I I understand the concerns that a true conservative, and I'm not talking about MAGA people, they're not true conservatives. I'm talking about like a true conservative. True conservatives have concerns about a society in which you try to sort of like, and you have like a government that's trying to engineer like a right role in place for everyone and trying to engineer certain outcomes like equality of opportunity and all that. I think that's
Mhm.
in it's a the liberal, especially kind of the liberal elite, the like, ivory tower folks like to try to think of like, oh, we can just do this and do that and put this place here and these government regulations and we'll dial everything in perfectly and it will just be magic. And I don't think you can do that. I just don't think it's possible. um but I think you have to try
Mhm.
anyway, and B, I think we're going into this moment. There's going to be just, I mean, the level of upheaval that's happening in the world right now is maybe unprecedented. Um, I mean, World War II was massively disruptive, but
Mhm.
the combination of um, climate tipping points that we're approaching and the issues that are going to be created, that are being created now by the disruptive force of AI,
Yeah.
are going to have just a massive impact on jobs and labor.
Mhm.
And the reality is, like, people need to have some kind of employment, profession, something they're doing that, like, they're connecting with society, they're being productive citizens, they're contributing to themselves and a larger, um, a larger impact in the world and society. And if they don't have that, you're going to have chaos. There's just going to massive, massive problems.
Let me ask you this, because I think we've really built this individualistic society,
Hmm.
and I think the wealth inequities exacerbate that, especially as we're seeing that top 1% have so much of the wealth in the world, and we know the repercussions of those who are managing living in poverty. Do you think that there's a need to be more collectivist, that there needs to be a reallocation, a different lens of how to sort of look at the world? And not to say we're going to start building communes and no longer have private properties and all of that, because that's not easily done. I think we probably as Americans value those things as part of the American dream. But, I, again, you might call me a socialist for this, but, don't you think it's worthwhile to redistribute wealth better and
Well,
support
I just,
each person who needs that?
I would just say, before we get to redistributing, like, why we make it harder for people to like single individuals or corporations or small collectives to amass so much.
Well, that's
Like
it.
when
I
you have like the government taking our public lands and trying to auction them off and sell them to individuals. And
Mhm.
like that's what is gonna get that's what wakes people up when it's like, you know, I can no longer go, just to and it fortunately in the Northeast things are a little more like set because we've just been around longer and you know, our sort of structures and political structures and family histories are a little more like set. But like out west, there's massive tracts of land that have just been bought up and privatized and you can't access them. It's beautiful, like places
Mhm.
where there's like mountains and, just
Mhm.
streams and rivers and like you can't go to it because some billionaire owns it.
And don't get me wrong, I didn't mean just handouts. I meant changing policies so that
Sure.
we
Uh,
can afford universal
Yeah.
health care.
Right.
We don't need to privatize every hospital.
Yes.
We are meaning, sorry, making a conglomerate and have, the insurance companies, basically ruin healthcare.
Yeah.
We
Well,
don't.
that's the problem with capitalism is it's an inevitable force of like economics. It's like supply and demand. You're always going to have this contention for resources, and then you're going to have, you know, someone who takes advantage of a resource and uses it to, you know, create more of that resource or create new resources and benefits from using that. But what also happens is that inevitably it's going to become a monopoly. Like if I can, if I own like one grocery store and it's the only grocery store in town and there's no other grocery stores anywhere nearby, like I can charge whatever price I want. Now, if there's other grocery stores that start cropping up, that's a good thing. Creates competition, creates choice for consumers.
Mhm.
But if I am able to buy all of the grocery stores and keep anyone else out of the grocery business and I own all of the grocery stores, I can charge whatever I want.
Yep.
And I'm not, there's nothing driving me to make my stores better.
Yep.
And that's a big thing you see in like healthcare, especially because
Mhm.
like there's not only is there there's a supply problem, but there's also like because you've got this very complex system and then you've got this kind of agglomeration of different like private equity interests, you don't create the conditions to like serve the demand. You just create the conditions to drive up profits
Mhm.
for the owners.
Yeah.
And that's happening all across our economy. And
Yeah.
so to go back to like the collectivist thing, it the thing that starts to move is when enough people get together and they're just pissed off and they're like, this sucks and
Mm.
we deserve better.
Mhm.
And that's when you start to try to make things move, because the one thing that like the small group of elites can't do is overcome the power of the masses. And they are trying very hard and they are doing some scary things to
Mhm.
try to do it. But
Mhm.
if enough people are pissed off and active and woken up to what's happening, it becomes an unbearable force.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So going back to this American dream, since you've talked about our current administration a little bit, what I feel like there's their version they are manipulating to I mean, I think they did even to get into office, but to justify a lot of what they're doing. But I don't see that really aligning with James Truslow Adams' definition or your definition or what most people think about the American dream. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that as far as,
Well, they
do you think it
capitalize on fear and racism. I mean, that's the core of it. Like, and it isn't to say that everyone who follows them are, you know, racist, fearful bigots, but like they created a false sense of urgency over, basically they're capitalizing on the feeling that a lot of people have that like the American dream is disappearing, right?
yes.
And that's very savvy because that's how a lot of people feel.
Yes.
People legitimately feel that way.
Mhm.
But they didn't offer a solution. They offered a punching bag. They offered a bad guy, a boogeyman. And
Mhm.
it was like, um,
Immigrants.
immigrants and liberals and LGBTQ and whatever, right? Like
And it's
that's
to me, and we just sort of unpack the root cause, and it's just I think corrupt economics. I mean, again, I'm not an economist, I'm not a
yeah.
historian,
Well,
but
all
I
they
feel
did
like
was
it's corrupt
they
economics.
they were like, look over there, that's where all the bad guys are. And then while they were doing that, they were just like,
Yes.
just creating this
Let's
grift machine.
billions of dollars
Yes.
for a war we don't
Yeah.
want.
I
Oh,
mean, they
I'll
have
take that
stolen billions
plane.
and billions of dollars.
Watch my crypto climb. Yeah. And that's just a small number of people, but I don't know. I just think I do worry about unraveling all of this effectively with future administrations, like however
Yeah.
it lands,
No, it's
Democratic,
gonna be
Republic,
it's gonna be
Independent,
terrible.
something different.
It's gonna
But
be terrible.
yeah, there's just a lot, and I don't know if it can be done.
And the problem is there's there are some things that are happening in this country that have created true wealth. I mean, has continued to be a lot of innovation in the tech industry. There's been some incredible innovation in pharmaceuticals,
Mhm.
and you know we're still an amazing country of vast resources and innovation. And it's like you look at the World Cup, and like I'm glad that the competition has been so great and the vibes have been great,
Mhm.
because I'm very turned off by FIFA's so corrupt and it's so all about the money. But like
Mhm.
they put a good product out there. I'll give them credit for that. But there's also a lot of just like money being moved around and like money being made and wealth being created without any real value being put out in the world. I
Mhm.
mean, the cryptocurrencies, there they don't do anything. It doesn't create any value. It is not a thing. There's no value being created in the world. When
Mhm.
you know, when you're John Deere and you make a tractor, like you created something that is a physical thing. Somebody had to
Mhm.
work really hard. Like
Has
the
utility.
engineering that
Mhm.
went into that, all of the like manufacturing and complexity and logistics to deliver a tractor to someone and then to maintain it and have it be a quality product. That is a real thing.
Mhm.
Like there's so much and you look at like the Kalshi and the Polymark and the DraftKings and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It is just bullshit. There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
human value. There's no value being created in the world on that stuff. And that is going to be, I think, something that
Needs to be
crashes out.
regulated.
It's going to crash out in our economy because you can't just keep ultimately wealth, is tied to things. Like money is tied to things. It's tied to like actual real value. And it's not always
Mhm.
a tangible thing, like eating a meal at a restaurant. You know, you're not paying $100 for a nice date night out for two people for the food itself. Like, yes,
Yeah.
the food is part of it, but it's also the ambiance, it's the service,
Yeah.
it's the experience, so it's not just tangible things, but that's real value creation. And
Mhm.
a lot of people are busting their ass to make that happen. The
Mhm.
you know, the Kalshi poly market bullshit. Like it's just there's no value being created there.
Mhm.
It's just somebody figuring out a way to get money moving back and forth, and they pinch
Yeah.
a little bit off
Well,
the top off every transaction.
and just gambling. I mean, I couldn't feel
It's
good
all
about
gambling.
making
Yeah.
making money off of that.
Yeah, but even, like, if you go to a casino and you roll craps, like, you're still
At
that's an
least
experience,
yeah,
right? Like,
there's some
you're
entertainment there.
you're doing something, like, you're not
Yeah.
sitting there, like, drooling and looking at your phone, losing money over, like, dumb shit that what dumb thing is JD Vance gonna say, you know?
Yeah. Oh, someone made a bet on that?
Oh, yeah, all the time. That's, like, half the
Man,
shit on
I'm
this
glad
stuff.
I'm ignorant to this.
Yeah.
So this also brings up, you talk about tangible stuff, but we've, certainly in the probably past maybe like 40, 50 years have certainly shifted towards this consumer culture. And do you think that's something that needs to we need to pump the brakes on? Just thinking about, you mentioned, before about climate change and, how it's just, the FIFA and their money making. It just brought up these things around, how Americans are such consumers, and
Yeah.
is that trying to fill the void of not having the American dream, or is that what we think the American dream is? Like, let's just get a
Yeah,
lot of money and buy a lot of stuff,
I mean, I think
claim it mine, mine, mine.
I have conflicting feelings about this because I think
Mm.
that, you know, I don't love the, consumer culture. I don't love the impact that it has on the earth, as someone who cares about the environment. But also I I feel like, and I think we knew people, our grandparents' generation, our great grandparents, like we knew people who um, you know, kind of came of age as consumer culture was booming.
Mhm.
And w- if you were in like the 1950s, when all of a sudden there's like, there's this peace and prosperity and kind of, this like burgeoning middle class in the United States, like you didn't think twice about like, oh, I'm gonna buy all this stuff. And now like this is great. I've got, got a refrigerator and I've got electricity and
Mhm.
TV dinners and, oh, there's a television. That's cool. You're, you weren't thinking about like, shit, this is all going to go in a landfill one day. And then we're going to get
Yeah.
into this, like, and even there was a time where like, okay, you'd have all those devices, but you'd have like a repairman in town and
Yeah.
someone who would come and like actually fix stuff. And it's like if your radio broke, you
Yeah.
fixed it. You didn't go just buy a new one, right?
Yeah.
So that shifted, and I think there is like a story of like that consumerism that you know the American dream became available to more and more people as
Mhm.
stuff got cheaper and more
Yeah.
people could buy it and feel like, oh, I'm a millionaire.
Mhm.
In the stuff you would have to, if you were a millionaire in the 1950s or like inflation adjusted, whatever, you were
Mhm.
quote unquote rich, like the stuff that you would own is what someone who makes $50,000 in 1980 would own,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? So part of like the American dream became cool. I can have, two cars in a garage and all this stuff. And that just became available to more people, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But that is also not sustainable.
Mhm. And
So,
why don't you think it's sustainable?
well, because you can't just keep creating shit and having planned obsolescence and having plastic and landfills
I
and
hate planned
yeah, I mean it
obsolescence.
doesn't at some point it breaks. It doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And you can't have, you know, all 8 billion people on the planet getting a new iPhone every 18 months. It just at some point,
But we are.
no, we're not. And we're not going to be able to. At some point it breaks. You just can't do it.
Mhm.
So fundamentally, something has to change there.
Yeah. Do you have
And
any solutions?
well, I mean, we can all go back to our roots and get in touch with our Earth Mother. And
Oh, can we have like a can phone with a string between it?
I mean, I don't think we should stop innovating and having technology, but I think that like as a people, you start to think about like what is really important,
Okay, so no can phone.
I mean, you can have your can phone. I'm going to stick with my iPhone.
As you were mentioning all this too, I keep looking over at the thousands of Legos.
Yeah. Yeah. We have so much plastic crap here.
Although Legos, they hold up pretty well.
Legos are great. Legos are great because they're, um, they're basically indestructible.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, like my entire lifetime of like having Legos as a kid and kids having Legos, I think I've seen like 3 Lego pieces get broken.
yeah,
They
it's
don't
true.
break, right?
Takes a
And they're
lot.
all interchangeable. So if you had
Mm,
all the Legos that I had as a kid and then mix them with all the Legos that
great
our kids have,
design. Yeah,
they're still interchangeable. There's no sort
yeah,
of like, oh, well, this is the new platform and all of the ones you had before are
don't
obsolete,
work.
so go buy new ones. It's like
Yeah.
it's meant to just keep
Oh,
expanding,
so we
right?
like Lego.
And
I do like Lego.
if
It's a lot of Legos though.
well, but if you wanted, if we were done with them in our house and we
Someone
wanted
else
to
would
like,
love them.
we could sell them, give them to someone else, and they have them. So
True, it's
that's
true.
actually a good example of building something that is like a consumer product that is, they've continued to find ways to like appeal to new generations.
Mhm.
They, when they went into the branded products, the Harry Potter and the Star Wars and stuff like that, that it, created some scarcity and some appeal for people who were into
Yeah.
those things. And it's like enduring, like our grandkids will play with Legos most likely.
Mhm.
So that's a great example of you can create something that's like commercially successful, capitalist product. Yes, probably not the best thing for the environment is a ton of plastic, but these things will be around for. I
Yeah,
mean,
a long time.
these Legos could be played with probably in 300 years and
Sweet,
not lose a beat. So,
sweet. Well, I know our
and in
son
fact,
isn't
like
getting rid
that
of
might be what we're making houses out of in 300 years.
Legos.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no more building materials, folks, except
Yeah.
for these
Yeah.
Legos.
Well, I mean, maybe that's the answer.
Yeah,
Housing crisis.
Lego home.
Legos.
As long as there's indoor plumbing, I
Yeah.
think we're good.
I
Yeah,
can
no,
install a toilet.
sweet. Yep. These Legos, man. Yeah, I don't think we're getting rid of them anytime soon. They're treasured. All right, so kind of getting to the wrap up point here a little bit. Since we've mentioned Legos and little ones, there have been some statistics that, are we are sort of the millennials are sort of the generation where we are not seeing as much wealth or prosperity as our parents, and the same will go for our children. And we don't know. I mean, of course, there's gonna be a time where we sort of had to see things shift. However, I would say there are probably more people than ever who are more comfortably middle class, despite some of the challenges and maybe still living paycheck to paycheck. But our kids, and not just our kids, but like, that generation who are coming of age now are going to probably face a lot of challenges with high levels of school debt, like crippling school debt,
Yep.
um, a really challenging housing market, and difficulties with jobs. Especially we've got AI and just a shift in how people can have gainful employment for a lifetime,
Right.
right? And where there's less pensions and things like that. So, it's going to be tough. And I'm curious your thoughts because you've been fairly optimistic. Uh, what role do you think maybe it's from the government level, or how we can best prepare kids? Like what would your advice be?
Well, so the thing I would quibble with in what you just said is that is the comfortable middle class. And I
Okay.
understand why you said it. I think that from a creature comfort standpoint, from a, the the things we have and the relative level of like safety and access to education, access to healthcare and all that, we can criticize the healthcare system, we can criticize the education system and all that, but still, compared to historically, the entire history of human civilization up until this point, we're still pretty much at the peak. The fact that there's so many people who have access to, you know, clean water and healthcare and,
Hmm.
nutritious food and education and all of that. And certainly in the United States, like it's to the point where we take that stuff for granted. So yes, like we shouldn't be satisfied with some of the things that are happening and some of the slipping we've seen in quality of healthcare and stuff like that. But like um we have a lot of comforts. However, what's not comfortable about middle class is that increasingly you can't own things. You can't build wealth. It's all about like, and you think about like what an education is. Like, okay, so student debt. Okay.
Hmm.
So we want to create more productive members of society. We want to have more engineers and doctors and physical therapists and veterinarians and teachers and, you know, plumbers and electricians and carpenters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right.
Hmm.
But if you if the cost of having a good career, if we're saying that if you're not coming from generational wealth where your parents like whatever will send you to Boston University and it's going to cost $300,000, no problem, that's a drop in the bucket, right? If you're not coming from that and you guys as a student have to pay for that out of pocket or your family's got to pay for it, well now it's like the cost of you, and I'm exaggerating. There's obviously a lot of paths that don't require you to go to Boston University,
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
that much money, but like we're saying, like the cost for you to become an engineer because you didn't inherit a lot of wealth and your parents aren't rich is, at least $50,000, maybe it's $300,000,
Hmm.
right?
Okay.
So right off the bat, that person is, you know, behind their peers who don't have to take on debt.
Hmm.
Now, look, school cost stuff, you know, if you don't have the money, borrowing money is one way you get there. That's I'm not going to quibble with that. Like, it's not like we should make everything equal for everyone, but that's you're behind, right? And then
Hmm.
now you're behind in being able to buy a house because instead of taking that money that you could put towards buying a house and building equity in a house and building wealth, you are putting that into paying your debt. So say now you're 10 years behind on that, you save enough money to buy a house. Well, now you're 10 years behind on your retirement savings and
Yep.
on and on and on the cycle goes, right? And then
I
your
mean,
kids,
100%.
you don't have the money to pay to put your kids into that
I
education
mean,
system.
we felt this.
Yeah.
We definitely had that challenge, and still trying to kind of set ourselves up for success as we get older, and I think it's going to be even harder for this
Yeah.
next generation.
I think I mean certainly that's the trend that we're on.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this to you before, like when our kids were born, I felt like I was like, this path we're on is so unsustainable.
Yeah.
Like with school, like college education costs and like, savings and all that. It's so unsustainable that like people pressure. The people are going to pressure the
Yeah.
government. They're going to create the system
Hmm.
to fix this.
Hmm.
That has not happened.
No.
And I was wrong about that. But I still think going back to where we started around the optimism, I think that is starting to shift. And, you know, I I don't think that we should swing all the way towards like everybody gets, we're sharing everything and we're communists and everything. Everybody gets, the same opportunity because I think that, you those systems trend towards mediocrity.
Hmm.
But I do think that if you look at like the reality in this country, are we a meritocracy? No, we're not a meritocracy because certain people don't have the opportunity to excel in the way that they could. And then other people who, either are, and again, some of them like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not a rags to riches story. He is not a self-made man. He came from wealth. His family had a lot of wealth, but Elon Musk is an incredibly smart dude. He's an incredibly hardworking, incredibly enterprising guy.
Hmm.
If he was, you know, born in like,
That
you
thatch
know,
hut.
yeah, or like Inglewood or Bed-Stuy or something, and like had to come up out of no, like he would have done well for himself. He would be a different person. He would not be,
Hmm.
the world's first trillionaire, all that bullshit. But like he would have carved out a good and successful life for himself.
Hmm.
And we just need to create a system in which like good hardworking people can
Yeah.
thrive and have those opportunities. And then for the the middle class, like if you get a good education, you dedicate yourself to a career, you work hard, you make good financial decisions, you treat people well, you should be able to have a nice house, have some nice things, get good health care, get a good education for your kids, and live a long and happy and healthy life.
So, is that how you would describe the American dream to
I
your
mean,
own
that's
kids?
that's the American dream, I think. I think that's it,
Okay.
you know?
Okay.
Like if you want to bust your ass and try to become, you know, Bill Gates and you have that talent and the luck and all that, then like that opportunity should be there for you.
Hmm.
But if you're like, I just want to have a good life and I want to like, go to church on Sunday and watch football and, drink beer at the bar and play golf and have, fun with my kids in the backyard. Like you should be able to do that. And you shouldn't have to worry about like, is some, private equity schmucko gonna put a fucking data center in my backyard?
So, what are you still chewing on?
Um, I don't know. There's big problems, big problems out there.
Are you glad you're no longer part of government?
Well, I certainly wasn't going to solve those problems in the North Yarmouth Select Board.
But
Uh,
you get blamed for them.
yeah, yeah, you get blamed for, everything that everyone's pissed off about, but yeah,
No
you know,
power.
you can't solve any of the problems, and nobody wants to hear your solutions to them anyway.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that I truly do think that like the revolution is coming. It's not like a revolution like in a
Hmm.
1776, but I just think that like
I've got a musket
there's a
downstairs.
fundamental shift. I don't think that's going to work,
Should I
and
pull it off
we're
the
not going to
wall?
get very far. But I don't know, man. Maybe we'll go do the whole January 6th thing, like be
Yeah.
like, oh, Patriots, yeah.
Yeah. And what is relatively ordinary?
Well, it is interesting that this isn't the first time we've been through this type of thing in this country.
Hmm.
It's happened a couple times. But the biggest thing is that this country was founded because we, the people, did not want to live under the rule of a tyrannical,
Mm-hmm.
autocratic government.
Mm-hmm.
So
Here we go again.
here we go again. But you know what happens? You know what happens when you fuck with America?
Well said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for today. Unless you have anything else you want to
Nope, that's all.
deliver.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, nice work.
take me home.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
America.
Happy birthday, America.
Happy 4th of July, everyone.
Yeah, and go Team USA.
Yeah.